Ah, there you are now, son. How are you doing? How are you getting on? Let me tell you a tale. Sit down and listen. It was back in... Oh, Jesus. It was back in 19... It was 19. I remember it well. Back then we used to have things called wives. And when the wife used to be getting on our nerves and banging the bollocks out of our ears, we'd text our friends. We'd go, Michael, the wife is banging the bollocks out of me ear. Do you want to go for the pint? He'd say, go on. We'll go for a pint. Back then, we'd walk down the road and we'd turn the corner. And there used to be this building on the corner. We called it the pub. It was a magical place, son. A magical place. The smell of stale beer and men's farts would be in the air. Before you even reached the door, you'd meet Jack, and Jack would be outside having a smoke and giving out about the fact that he had to go outside to have a smoke. You'd walk in, and all your friends would be there at the bar. They'd be sitting at the bar. Back then we used to have things called stools. Ah, sure it is. I remember it well. And you sit on the stool at the bar, and the barman would come over. That's what we called the man who used to make the drinks. We called him the barman. And he'd come over and go, well, what are you having? And you'd look down at the taps. And you go, Jesus, Johnny, rough one last night. Go on, I'll chance a pint. It was a bit like this kind of pint, but it was different, you see, because it came from the tap. Anyway, muck. And anyway, so the barman would go over and he'd get a glass just from behind the counter. And he'd get it at a 45-degree angle. He'd pull the tap. And the tap would go and flow and flow, and he'd be turning the glass, the tap flow. And a quarter of the way up the glass, he'd leave down the glass to settle, you see. And you'd be looking at the glass settling, and you'd be waiting and waiting and waiting, and be Jesus, you'd feel the saliva coming down your mouth, waiting for the pint. And then you go, here, Joe, would you ever pull us that fucking pint, or I'd pull it myself? And then the barman would come over and he'd top your pint up, put it down before you, and you'd look over at the telly and there might be Grania Shoiga. You don't remember her, but she might be on the telly, or there might be, I don't know, Joe Duffy or something on the telly. You'd have a look over the telly and go, Jesus, that's an awful gobshite. And then you go back to your pint. And you'd lift your pint and you'd look at it. Pure bliss in a glass. And then the queer one would come in, giving out, saying, "What are you doing in the pub this hour of the day? We have to go shopping." And you'd say to her, "Will you relax? We can do the shopping later. Later on, woman. Will you sit down and have a West Coast cooler?" And she'd tell you, "Why are you talking about a West Coast cooler? I have to drive." And you'd say, "Sir Jesus, it's only a West Coast cooler. You can drive with a West Coast cooler." And you'd say to the barman, Joe, come here. Get the queer one a West Coast cooler." And you get the glass, put it into the ice bucket, and you swirl it around, and you'd get the West Coast cooler and you'd pour it in, and she plant it in front of her, and Jesus, she was happy out for an hour or two. The nagging would stop while she drank her West Coast coolers. All four of them